Hello, everyone, and this is one of my authors' chats of the week. And I am starting just a few minutes early since my co-host today it'll be her first time. So I wanted to try to gear up the system a little early so I can send her an invite accordingly, and hopefully all goes smoothly. And we shall see. But yeah, we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything. Hi, everything in between in just a few minutes. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to let me know. I'm going to peek out periodically just to see if she is out here for me to send that invite. But yeah, so it's been kind of a fun week. I had a few different sales that I've been going back and forth and shipping out some signed copies of books, which is always kind of fun to do and wrap and send those out to various readers that go across the states. And I'm one of the authors who tries to document those sales with one of those maps of the United States to see where they go, and maybe I'll expand to the world eventually. But right now I'm starting with the states, and got a few new states on my board this week, so it's already been only a couple days a couple days in, so I thought that was very fantastic and kind of perked up my week. It is a big week for me, and I see my co-host. I'm seeing, and we will get this thing going in just a moment. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you. I cannot. Ah, there you go.
It's
Hi!
working. I had no
Perfect.
faith in myself.
Hey, you got it. You got it faster than some people who have done this many times before. And when I'm on the other side, I always like panic too when I'm not the one who's inviting people and I have to be invited. I'm like, do they see me? Do you know I exist?
I was like, do I have to go in my own live? And is she gonna pull me over into that one? I don't know what to do.
Both ways work, and that's why I just put them out there. Whoever's comfortable with whichever version. But thank you for coming out and coming to talk with me about some books this evening.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
Yay! And so I don't know if you've ever watched any of my lives before, but they're pretty conversational. And whenever someone in the comments may or may not post, something bookish related, we can, answer questions, all that. And I usually just turn it over to my co-host, which tonight is you. And I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and a little bit about what you write, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Put you on the spot.
uh, I know. I'm Sam. I write epic fantasy. That's not inspired by a specific Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but is more so like inspired by the spirit of it, the going on adventures, found family kind of thing. Um, I've got them here. You can't really see them, but they're there.
You
Um,
can always come and lift them up closer. I know they're always kind of like inverted, but feel
I
free to show pretty covers because there are so many people here who love pretty covers.
always inverted, and then if you use the invert filter to flip it the right way, it like I don't know, it makes my face look weird to me, and I
I
hate it.
think you get so used to the way you look on camera in a certain way, and then when you flip it, because we are not symmetrical creatures, and when it
No,
does it, you're just like, I started playing around with that inverted feature too, and I was like, this is why I have a pre-made inverted poster behind me.
so
It's
smart. So smart.
It's one of those fun tricks that I recommend to any author who decides to do a lot of these lives. It's just put a poster, have it already inverted behind you of your beautiful books, and we go
I
from
would
there.
have never thought of that. That's genius. And those
But
are all so lovely.
oh, thank you. But yeah, so you were saying that your books are they one series, multiple? How many do you have at this moment?
So just the two books right now in the same series. The third one should be coming out, I'm hoping in the first half of this year. It
Ooh,
might get pushed into fall. We'll see how, revisions. But, and then the trilogy will be complete.
love it.
Oh,
And I think it's so much fun that you mentioned that it has like a lot of the vibes of D&D because I've noticed talking to all these authors over the weeks and weeks and weeks that there is a big overlap with the community who likes to do gaming and role play games, and of course now you have like lit RPG literature, but
mhm.
D&D style literature is also kind of a kindred spirit of that, but very different too. And so it is kind of a fun genre that I know I'm hoping to get into because there's definitely some inspiration that I have from playing a campaign or two.
Yeah, the very first time I ever sat down and like started the first book, I was like just started college and I had read R.A. Salvatore's like his Dark Elf trilogy and his
Oh.
Icewind Dale trilogy, which are all set in like the Forgotten Realms campaign setting, which is like a pre-built world that you can play D&D in.
Hmm.
And it's like where the Baldur's Gate video game is set. And I was like, how come he gets to write in something that like already exists? I want to do that. So like the very first, and I probably wrote like 3 or 4 chapters. I was like, this is gonna be in Forgotten Realms too. And Wizards of the Coast is gonna buy it from me. And then I didn't touch it for like 10 years. So
Yeah,
that's how it
it's
goes.
one of those things that when it comes to doing inspiration style literature, there is that careful, you don't want to like cross over on copyrights or, other people's IP, but on the other hand, some of those general ideas like you mentioned before, that whole found family, the questing, I mean that's been around
Yeah.
even well before D&D, but when you kind of just use that as a way to express like what kind of vibe your books are about. Everybody say, "Oh, I get that. I understand
Mm-hmm.
now."
Yeah. And it's been like it went through like 2 or 3 iterations before I ever actually published it. And it's like, it's totally different. It's funny how
Yep.
things evolve over time, but I think like it still had that like that found family, the quests,
Mhm.
and like I just love all that so much. So that had to stay.
So what
So
what about it makes it fantasy? Do you have fantastical entities, creatures, or like magic? Let me know.
there's yes. So um the magic is like magic users are called weavers and they can see the threads that make up reality and the
Hmm.
fabric of the universe and they manipulate those. Um it ends up expressing itself like very strongly like elemental magic, but
Hmm.
they figure out like other things to do with it as the series goes on. And then I have a lot of fun making up fantastical, sometimes gruesome creatures. So I have a
Yes.
lot of those too. That's fun.
I love that. No, it is so much fun when you come up with your own monstrosities or just fun races of beings in
Mm-hmm.
fantasy. And I'm sure that kind of applies to some of the sci-fi people out there and post-apocalyptic people out there too. But
Oh yeah.
but yeah, definitely for fantasy, it is very neat. And I know personally when I write my fantasy at this moment of time, most of my stuff is heavily inspired by various mythos and things you might have recognized, and some that are pretty obscure and you might not. But going forward, again, going back to that whole topic of being loosely inspired by the D&D vibe, I definitely am getting into creating my whole new creatures for the world that I'm slowly building out.
Oh, that's cool.
So, how is the world building process for you? I don't know. Are you in like, because some people start small and they're like, we really just deal with this city. Other people are like, I did the whole world and everything in between.
Uh, my I like to like write very linear through the book, but when I'm planning stuff out, it doesn't end up working out that way at all. And I bounce all around. So I've started plotting and doing my notes and stuff in Obsidian. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you're familiar with it, but it basically like makes you make your own wiki.
Ooh.
So you'll start off and you like whatever idea it is that's kind of like spurring your story. Sometimes it's like a scene, sometimes it's a character, sometimes it can be the magic, and you can write that and then create a link like oh blah 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 this character, make their name a link, and then you can go over to their page and type stuff about them, and then it ends up linking over there. It's chaotic and it takes me forever, but it ends up like this crazy web, and I can't even really
That's cool.
like I can't properly explain how it works out because I really don't. Sometimes it doesn't work out until I get there,
Mm-hmm.
like until you get to that part in the book, and you're like, oh, this is coming together now. This idea I had over here that doesn't really work anymore, but because of this thing that I wrote on the fly 3 days ago, now it comes together. Or at least it comes most of the way together, and then you do revisions, right?
Yes,
So
yes. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of
so
revisions.
much. So much.
But no, I just think it's so fascinating. Like everybody's process is so different, and it is very interesting because you're creating so many characters, your magic systems, the locations, and it is, if you really think about it, it's like wowing how everybody's brain who's a writer somehow comes together and develops these fantastical stories. And
It's so much
yeah.
to juggle
Oh
and so
yeah.
much to keep straight.
Oh yeah, and that's I found out now because I'm a series writer, and when I start writing far into a series and trying to keep all those details together or the ideas that I have, that I'm like, ooh, I want to tie in this concept or add this kind of subplot into it. And right now I'm at that point where I always like to reread the book prior because I juggle multiple series, and publishing is far behind of writing, so it's a weird process. But I always like to reread the book prior to make all those last minute notes of, oh yeah, I wanted to tie in this little idea or this idea, and it gets it can get a little confusing and intimidating sometimes.
Do you end up plotting out, or I mean, if you're a plotter, like the whole series before you get started on book one? Because I see your
Not
series are quite long.
Yeah, so some of them, I usually have like the core points done. I'm not like fine details up until I get to closer into that part of the story, but I usually know how many books or novellas are going to be in the series and the core points, the core themes of those books, and the end game of those books before I write them. But until then, also, that allows, if earlier books that I'm actually working through come up with new ideas, new concepts,
Mhm.
I'm not like having to scratch everything and start fresh from that point forward. But yeah, so I kind of do a little bit of both. I plot enough where I'm comfortable, and then let the story kind of come alive beyond that point.
I I'm such an outline plot person
That's
that
good.
anytime people say, "Oh, I don't plot," or "I only plot like a few bullet points and then I go," I'm like, "How?"
Well,
I've
again,
been
that's
so
for like
long.
a long game. When it comes to the book itself, I that's when I do a little more detailed, fleshed out stuff. But yes, I'm definitely not 100% plotter. Where there are authors, I guess, more along your lines that likes to know exactly the beats.
Singing a curse.
Hey, that's a fascinating thing. I just started. Funny thing is, like, I just started picking up. What is it? Is it who unalive the cat or something? I can't remember that book, but it's like,
Oh,
you know what I'm
yeah.
talking about? Well, like, it's talking about the structure of writing and everything, and I haven't read it, but I've also heard that does help people who like to kind of plot out, and it does kind of give them a guidance if you so choose that route. And I see a comment popping up saying, "I'm a plancer here."
I don't know how she does it.
I think it's I think it's nice to. Well, okay. Here's the thing. At least for me, it's I've written enough where I am pretty comfortable with my storytelling process. But I know when I was earlier on, I did want to plan a little bit more than I do now, just because I was new and I was still getting that groove together. So the more you write, the more your
That's
style
true.
takes hold.
That's true. Very true. I still feel like I would just like end up wandering into the figurative woods. Be gone. So
Hey, you never know. You wander into the woods, and you might have a couple side stories and spin-offs come before you come out.
it would.
But okay, so you have two books out, and you're working your way toward the third book of your trilogy. Did you notice any differences from your publishing process from book one to book two?
Yeah, they all of them have been different. Every single one, even just like the initial first draft, they have all been so different. And I thought after the first one was done, I was like, okay, going to the second one, I've got it pretty much figured out now. No. Absolutely not. I think the first draft was hardest the first time, and then the third time was also hard. That book I had to like squeeze out. I don't know what it was. Like I had the outline, everything was ready to go. Words were like, no, we're not coming. And then it's like the revision process of the second book was the hardest. Everything was like
Mm-hmm.
they're almost their own little people
Mm-hmm.
in that way because like I can't. It's so weird. Any creative anything is
Yeah.
just hope for the best. I'm just gonna work on it and eventually it'll be done, right?
It's okay. And but like I think that's true when you about the differences of each book. Everyone has its challenges. Everyone has its own like perks and experiences and maybe ease depending on the book and project, because I know I struggled just trying to learn the whole self-publishing field for
Ugh.
book one, and it took forever, you know. And at that point, when I was publishing back in 2016, we didn't either have a lot of the platform slash resources as we have now, or I didn't know of them at that point. And so since then, everything has gone easier, and a rhythm has
Mhm.
taken hold.
I
And
think around that time things really started. Self-publishing was already a thing, but around in there, I feel like it really started popping off, and all of a sudden there was more stuff
mhm.
on YouTube that you could look up, more blogs were talking about it, and then the information was more readily available. Like it felt like in there, as
Yeah.
I started what like the draft that would eventually become my first book in 2016, and I was doing like all the research, and then like AuthorTube was a big thing on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. All the YouTube authors were a big thing back then. I feel like that's kind of gone away. Now we're all on here.
I was gonna say, everybody migrates, but there's always going to be authors that have their favorite platform, and a lot of us have chosen this one. But there are still some that their favorites, maybe Instagram, others are X, others may still
Ugh.
be YouTube or Facebook. But yeah, I love this community. This one's a lot of fun.
I was very reluctant to come on TikTok, and my friend who's also an author, she's the one that said she's a plantser down here. She's like, we gotta go on TikTok. It's where all the people are,
Mm-hmm.
and I fought her on it, but it was such a good decision. I'm glad that we both came over here, and I'm glad I listened and came over here
Yes.
because it's there's drama here too, but I feel like overall all the authors and readers and stuff on TikTok are just like so supportive of each other, and it's a mostly such a positive community compared to what some of the other stuff has been like X.
I know. I again only speak from personal experience, and I totally agree with that because it's a very similar story. I was so reluctant to get on here, and my husband was like, "You gotta do it. You gotta do it." He's in marketing. I mean, he's in sales, but he listens to a lot of marketing stuff, and he was like, "Everybody's moving that way, especially in your field. You gotta do it." And I was like, "No, no, no. I'm on too many platforms. I have no time to expand." And when I got on, I kind of got over that hump of what the heck am I doing on
No,
here?
I know.
Because it's a little intimidating at first,
Do I have to
but
dance?
then
Like, what am I
I
doing?
quickly
I'm too
realized and
old.
looked around. I was like, man, I should have started this like 6 months ago. Why did I wait so long?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, from my experience, most people are on the positive side. That's super helpful, and like thankfully, I mean, I am through through the network aware that things do crop up in the book talk community, but personally have not experienced too much of that myself, which for better or
Yeah.
for worse. And no, I love the community and a bunch of my friends. Sorry, I dropped my pen somewhere and I can't find it. I'm trying to feel around. But I do love this community and all the people who I've met. And because of that, actually, meeting a lot of authors like through things like this have opened up various opportunities, which is kind of fun too. So you never know
Yeah.
what will happen.
It's something. It's always something. Good, bad, who knows? Always something. But it's been like we've both said now, largely positive on here, which is so refreshing.
hmm
So
So up to this point, what is your favorite part of being an author? Like, what brings you the most joy? And it could be a bunch of things, or well, hopefully something.
So as far as like the process, I love when you get like when you like seized by that idea,
Hmm.
like and you sit down with it and you start doing the world building and everything starts coming to you and you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, and then they can go do this. Oh, and then this happens. And what if the magic works that way? And it's just all like tumbling out and like the story starts to take shape. And it's not always easy and quick, but sometimes it is, and that inspiration is there and you're able to get it all down. That is awesome. I think that's my favorite part. Um, but then also when somebody reads your book,
Hmm.
and obviously you always want somebody to read your book and like it, but when they read your book and they like it and they're talking to you about it and they're like, when this character did this thing, and it really reminded me of something that happened to me, or like I feel like these characters are my friends, or things like that. Or
Hmm.
like I was having a crappy week and then I was reading your book and it was such a cool adventure, and now I've you know those are my favorite things. I think is like when the story starts really building and you can get excited about it and the inspiration's there, and then when people relate to it and also enjoy your story and like share that vision with you, the magic you
Yes.
know
That is no. I mean, and I hope for every author that we all don't get too overly accustomed and overly sensitized to those kind of compliments, because it is such a these little bubbles of joy.
yeah, yeah.
It's
For everyone
comes
that
up
likes
or
it, there's the
said
person
like
that's
I
like,
love
it
your
was
book, and
slow, and you're
oh
like,
yeah,
oh well,
it's just
it probably could be faster. So
but there are just lovely feelings when that does happen. And I think again, being on places like this, it makes it easier and readers more comfortable to not just see you as a name on the spine of a book, but you
yeah,
become real and tangible, and they're more willing to reach out and be like, "Hi, read your book. It's awesome."
I yeah. And there's been like I've made like internet friends on
Hmm.
here and on Instagram, and ended up reading books together, nerding out about the same things, all that, and like just falling in love with other stories, not just that we've dealt with my stuff, but other stuff too. And that's always great too. Like the falling in love with the stories is
Yes.
just really, from when it first gets going and then when it's finished and other people are falling in love with it with you. I think that's a little more eloquent than what I said the first time.
It's perfect. And then always comes the question. It will crop up. When is the next book coming? And you're like,
As soon as it can.
you smell like it'll be there. I promise. Eventually, when it's ready.
There, like there's two really popular fantasy series that are not finished, and I'm sure you're like, oh, Rasmus and Martin, and it's like I had this pressure where I was like, okay, we're going into the third book. You have to finish it. You can't do this. And I think that might have been part of why the third book was like so hard to get out, because I had that anxiety like, you can't be that way. Like, you've got to finish these.
Mm-hmm.
It just added it, I think. But it's
It's
written.
Hey, that's good. That is fantastic. I love that. And that's hey, writing it is a big step. It really is, because there's so many people on here that have or are hindered by their anxieties, depending on whatever the cause, and it kind of almost cripples them for a while. And you people deal with writer's block or whatever else they want to term that kind of concept, but it's having that challenge to finish the book, and then if you have a series, finish the series. Now you have a book series that's written. Now you're of course doing some of the editing and background tweaking and all that process,
Mhm.
but it is written.
Yeah.
You did it.
And So V.E. Schwab, I feel like everybody knows who she is. She has often talked about like it's one word at a time. And I like following her because first of all, I like her books and I think that her writing and her prose is like gorgeous. But I like that she shares a little bit of that vulnerability on her platform. And for someone that is as big as she is to do that, I'm like, that's pretty cool that she is putting it out there like that. But
Mm-hmm.
she's like, it's one word and then that makes one sentence and eventually that's a paragraph and then you got a page and then yada yada book. But it's still just one word at a time.
Yeah.
And that helps. When you're sitting down, you're just like, I can't get this scene out. But if I just do one word, you know, it'll build up and
Mm-hmm.
eventually you'll be done. So,
Now, are you wanting, willing, interested in writing other series in the future, or was this your, I did this was fantastic, and now find a new passion project?
oh no, I absolutely intend to keep going. So I wrote a cozy fantasy last fall that I
Mm.
absolutely loved. It's on the back burner while I'm getting the third book revised and get that taken care of. But I really enjoyed that. I'd like to write more of those like later down the line because it was just so much fun to write.
Mm-hmm.
You've got like the low stakes because it's cozy. It's still magical because it's fantasy. It was so much fun. But I also really want to write a romantasy.
Fun.
And I know that's like a big thing right now,
Oh yeah.
but I love
Romantic
them.
ones, well, it's not a big thing now. I think it's always will be a thing going forward. It may have started at some point, clearly, but it's not going away. I cannot foresee it going away.
No, I think it's romance is the words is the biggest selling genre anyway, has been forever. And it's just going to be like, what flavor of
Mm-hmm.
fantasy do people like with it right now?
Yeah.
So,
No,
but I want to do that too. I love reading them. I think it'd be so much fun to write one.
that would be such a fun challenge, and it's good. I don't know. It's good to challenge yourself to try different things, especially when you're finishing a series and you have that choice now. Do I do something very similar, or do I branch out? And authors can do either. And
Mm.
so for me, I'm always branching out different ways, which makes marketing that much more complicated. I will admit, but but it's fun to challenge yourself. In sometimes I do it in forms of short stories where I just want to dabble with some idea or concept. And recently I finished a standalone. It's my first standalone. It's my first romantasy. It's my first multiple POVs. It's a lot of first. And so it's written, and now I put it to bed for a little bit, and I will come back to it when I'm having a time, because right now I'm publishing two other series simultaneously, and I have no more energy.
I don't know how you balance that. I can't. I can barely work on like I spend most of my time doing my revisions on Anagovia 3, and then like on the weekend I'll be like, let me keep reading through the cozy and making my little notes for when I come back. And it takes such a gear shift in
Mm-hmm.
the brain. I don't know that I could different series, be finishing them up, be marketing them, and then right, it's
It's
pretty incredible.
it does. There is again, like I said, it's a little bit of a juggle, and there is that point where whatever I'm physically writing the new work of, and then I turn around to like deal with the edits, and I start reading the edits because I try to make sure at some point I always try to read them aloud just to make sure that helps me catch some things. And when I'm doing that, I'm always flipping names of characters. I'm like, you're not the main written, it's fine, but just saying them, I'm just like so used to saying maybe another character, and all of a sudden I'm like, you're not that book. Wrong character, wrong world.
Do you have to like stagger your stuff out during the day? Because like I do freelance editing and I
Mhm.
start like my morning doing that and then a little into the afternoon and then I have to like, okay, small break here and now I can get into writing because it's like right brain versus left brain kind of thing and I'm like a division line and now I can focus on something else.
And I do see a comment popping up. Romantasy. Hi, Sunny. Romantasy. I want my heart to flutter.
Yes.
Yes. For me, when I write, I am fortunate at this moment, knock on wood, whatever, good vibes. I'm able to be a full-time author and artist combined. So I do have a lot more time than a lot of other authors have currently. So I will mention that. But yes, in the mornings, I or is my best time to write new stuff, and then in the afternoons, I'll switch up, and that's when I choose. Okay, I need to do some marketing. Oh, I got some edits to come in, and I do kind of break it up after lunch, and it changes up. But yeah, I'm a morning writer. I found out like if I don't hit it in the morning, then I'm really reluctant to sit down and write new words. It can be tough. Sunny says, my heart palpitations need to balance out excitement. And morning writing,
Oh,
yes.
there's a winky face. I know what they mean.
And the reason why I read these down is if this platform is kind, and more often than not it is, I will repurpose this on YouTube and make sure I add all your links and tags below. But all the comments aren't there, so that's why I do that. But yes, morning writer. So you said you write in the afternoons. Is that just the time you found out that you work best?
Y- Yes, I think it's from having spent so long with like the corporate daytime job and having like the analytical brain going during that time and then getting to write in the evenings that's still how my brain wants to work. So I'm doing edits for clients in the mornings, doing analytical brain stuff like let's fix grammar, that's where a comma goes, all that, and then my creative stuff starts switching on later in the day. So weird how you get into weird little habits of how your day is organized and you don't even realize it's happening.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. And but yeah, no, everybody again figures out their rhythm, and for me, yeah, I it took me a while because I tested things out, but there's definitely certain times a day that work better with my brain to try to focus on certain things. And I see, oh, thank you. I see a comment popping up. Start in the morning. I average 1,100 words an hour. Woo!
Killing it.
Sir. If I start after lunch, only 500, 600. Fair. Now, my question for you is, do you plot your book out, or are you coming up with it on the fly? Because I am a planter and part of it is coming up on the fly, I know my speed at writing a story is slower than some of my other author people who have thoroughly planned it out, but they've spent that time. So the time's there, it's just shifted around prior to writing the meat of the story. And I will to say, I think for me, it takes me longer to write, but it's also because my brain's coming up with a storyline in part as I write, if that makes sense.
I'm just a turtle either way.
Answer 100%. Hey, that's fantastic. I need to pick up my speed. No, everybody has their speed, and never judge yourself to someone else. Even though I still do to myself.
It's hard
I'm a
not
competitive
to.
person.
It's hard not to, but at the end of the day, getting it done is what matters. It doesn't matter how long it takes, unless you're, you know, tried published and you have a deadline or you've given yourself a deadline.
Fair.
But
And I do notice I have noticed over the years that the way I write, and because I do take a little longer to do the story, I won't say right because that's not the right way to word it, but I really do kind of take time to think in depth about my story as I put it on paper. That is one of the reasons why I don't actually need dev editors for most of my books. But some people do because they need someone to help them kind of start out and link everything together and, catch those big plot holes and flesh out your characters because some people just need that extra help. So with you, because you are in part, you said grammatical at least part editing, as a morning job with other people. Do you have an editor for yourself, or are
I
you your own?
do. No, I have hired an editor for development stuff and for proofreading and grammar on both my books. I'm really hoping to hire her again. Um, I've found that self-editing is hard. Not
Yes.
impossible, but it is hard. And it's like I very much will get back to another forest metaphor, but like you're looking at this tree and that tree, and then you're missing the forest and
Mhm.
you're missing the big picture, and having someone else looking at it who is, as objective as possible.
Mhm.
None of us are completely objective. That she can look at it, and between her and my critique partner, I feel like I get a really solid like developmental perspective on stuff.
That's good.
And then of course, as far as like proofreading and stuff like that goes, I feel like that's hard because we know what the sentence is supposed to say, and we will just supposed to say were, it says where, and we just right over it. And I'll do that all the time in my own stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I feel like do people need an editor to have a good story? No. Does it help? Absolutely. So
it does elevate it in many ways, I do think. And like I said, you can still have a fantastic story, but if you want your books, I would think you would want your books after you spent all this time creating them and loving them and making them become
to be the
like
best
your
they can
book
be.
babies. You want them to have the best chance, so give them the best chance. Yes, your mind fills in the things you thought you wrote. That is very true. That does happen. You know your
Exactly
characters,
it.
so you miss out. Yes, I do agree. You are so close to your book. It is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is very.
That's exactly what ends up happening.
So let me ask you, how do you try to market your books in any ways? Like, it's a horrible question, no.
Okay. So things that I have done some Amazon ads.
Mhm.
I think there's a magic amount that needs to be spent for the amount that you pay versus amount that you make to balance out. And I think it is higher than what anything I feel comfortable paying would be. I haven't found the magical number. Um, I've done some ads on Instagram in the past. I've done some promoted videos on here
Mhm.
that largely seem to be watched and liked by bots.
Interesting.
And so I do not have any super good marketing tips for anybody. I wish I did. I wish I had figured it out, except just talking about it all the time until people are sick of hearing about it.
Oh no, I mean, what works for one person does not necessarily mean it's going to work for someone else. And the problem with this particular game called self-publishing, or maybe publishing in general, is everything's changing all the time, and so sometimes you just have to throw the proverbial spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks, and see just
You
what works
really
for you
do.
in your genre, your niche. Luck is a factor. Um, Time, energy, educating yourself. I mean, they all potentially can play, and there is no one right answer. And I'll get something that works for a little bit, and then it changes.
It does. I did a video around the end of the year, beginning of this year, and it was just I was like lip syncing to an audio that I don't even know if it was it was like on its way out of
Mhm.
being popular. And then I just had like Pinterest images flashing up and then like my book covers and it exploded.
That's great.
And I was like, other videos that I've thought about and put like actual effort in get like, they get stuck in 250, 300 jail. And this
Mhm.
thing that I did on a whim worked.
That.
And I even did a little bit of experimenting with that. I was like, let's see if I promote a video on here that wasn't doing well and see what happened. And then I'll promote this video that had previously done well. And even in that case, it did better than the other one. But I still don't understand why that video even did good in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's who knows? Who knows? Is it the hashtags you put? Is it the time of day? Is it one person sharing at the right time to the right people? And I don't know. I've not figured that one out. I'm not a by any means a marketing or advertising guru. Do not ask me those questions. I just try things.
Yeah, I mean
I
that's all
feel
you
a
can do.
lot. I feel a lot. It's great.
I've even played with hashtags. Because for a while, I would just like hashtag everything to death. And then I saw something like you really should only use like five-ish hashtags,
Mhm.
and it should be a mixture of like ones that have a lot of videos associated with it, and then ones that are kind of smaller. And I haven't noticed there being any real difference there either. So I'm like, where are these people getting this information and making these suggestions? Like, how are they coming across that information? Because it's not doing anything.
Hey, but that's why you try. You just have to test things out, and that's the best you can do. And then you'll put one up one day and you'll be like, I just need a post because I can't think of anything, and it's going to go super viral, and you can be like, okay.
The most successful video I've had on here, it was like an audio that was like, show us your Hogwarts house and the like your zodiac sign and the type of character you play most often in D&D or something like that. Like just some dumb thing. And I was like, this one and that one and this one, 40,000.
Wow.
I didn't do anything except point and add little silly comments. Nothing on here of any value. Like it's not giving anybody any information. It's barely telling them anything about what I have going on. It's not like ugh.
Hey, and yes, I see this comment. The gods of the algorithm decide when the doors will open. That is so true. We just have to try different knocks. I love that.
I
I love,
need the knock spell that will open
yes,
all the doors, though.
yes,
I
that would be
cast
fun.
knock.
But oh, let me ask. Do you have you ever sold books directly, like be it maybe a book signing, or do you sell like off one of your socials or anything? Do you ever sell directly?
I have a TikTok shop on here, and I sell signed copies off of there, and I can actually list them cheaper on here than what I can
Mhm.
list them for on Amazon because the
Higher margins.
the Zon gods over there are not taking part of it. I can
Mhm.
list them for cheaper, and that's been pretty cool. And here for a little while, I've sold more from there than I have from Amazon anyway. And I'm like, I wish I didn't have to deal with Amazon, but
See, I was just thinking again. I don't know. You were talking about your magic system, and my brain always works about 15,000 miles a minute.
oh,
But like
sorry
saying,
guys, my
we're
cat's rubbing
doing-
on my phone's stand.
oh,
It got crazy.
no worries. But what I was saying was like in your magic system, you were talking about magic weavers and like being able to see and I don't know if they use any spells or anything, but I think it would be kind of cool if you, again, for your love of D&D and stuff like that, have like a little spell card, a spell that you create that's genuine, and then you can like give it out with your books as,
That's cute.
just little
I
thing you
should
print
do
out at
that.
home, something simple, and it would work with your theme.
I should do that. I haven't done any in-person events. There doesn't seem to be a super ton of them around here, which is a shame. I'm in like Boondocks, Central Florida. There's
Hmm.
not a lot here. We're not one of the like we're not Tampa and Orlando and the bigger places. We're like nowhere land. But I would love to do one, and that's such a cute idea. I've actually played with the idea of coming up with like a campaign setting and building Anagovia and the magic system into a tabletop RPG, but I haven't had the time because that's gonna be that would be
Time
a lot
is
of work.
time is a huge thing, but I've been dabbling with Kickstarters, and I know some authors have kind of used that to launch one-shot games or stuff like that based off their worlds. And I've used Hero Forge to 3D print my characters in miniatures to as options. They're not cheap though, but there are add-ons for people who like one of my series, and so stuff like that. But you can be creative, have fun with it. It's fun.
I didn't even know that you could do that. That you could print your characters. Like
Mhm.
I wish you hadn't told me.
I
That
will.
wasn't
I
for
can. I
me.
can send you the link behind the scenes, but it's wild because their details all the way to like the shape of the eyebrow and the ear shape and you pick your height and they adjust your character. I mean, they're miniatures, so like it's like teeny, but like it's wild what they can do. And but yeah, I hand paint them and send them off, and I'm considering if I should also have a lazy option where I send them out unpainted for people to paint themselves, because one, I'm not great at painting minis, and two, some people think that's as
A lot
just
of
as
people
cool
enjoy
as
that.
having one hand painted by the author. Okay, so I have a question. Actually, that's good for both of us. I'll let you answer it first, and it says, do your books come in audio form? And actually, in general, what formats do your books come in? Let's start with that.
So they're not on audio, unfortunately. That's something I want to work towards, but again, the time and the money have to be there first, and I would love to be able to do that. But right now, it's just ebooks, which is also Kindle Unlimited if you have that, so they're free on there, and then paperback on Amazon and my shop. You can see they're like which direction stacked up.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
But audiobooks, I would love to do down the line if I can get the funds together to do it, because I don't. There's like the option now to have like AI narrate your story or something, and it makes me want to throw up. I want to be able to hire someone and pay them what they're worth for that. So, and I would need two, because
I know the real intrinsic want to have your books become audio, and there is that appeal of AI because it's free and everything. But yeah, so far and going forward, I definitely like to hire people, and I've tried various methods of how I meet my audiobook narrators and going around. Yes, my books are all three series are going through the process of becoming audiobooks in various ways. I have the first book of my young adult, Magical Multiverse, Portal Fantasy. It's quest-based. It's lots of adventure. And the second one is, I'm about to start getting files back from my narrator on that one, so that will be coming out in the next month or so. And Azara's Claws, the first one of my new adult War Shifter Fantasy, is in the works. Though that one's taking forever, and I have issues with it. But we'll put a pin on that one. But that one's taking forever. It will eventually come out. And my adult Dark Viking fantasy, The Guardian Speaker, I have 5 of those out. They're novellas. They're quick. I have the omnibus also version of audio for the first 4. And the 6th one, I just sent those files to my narrator. So that will also be coming out in the next couple months. So slowly getting there for audio, but it is expensive and time consuming, and unless you're super talented, and I'm always wowed when authors take on that challenge to narrate themselves, their books themselves. Woo!
I can't do it. Lior has a very specific voice in my head, and I feel like my voice is not good enough. Like, I always picture her too having an accent, and I can't pull those off. And then I just feel like, compared to how she should sound in my head, that I am so whiny, and I'm like, I can't do it. And then I would like Hashkin to be narrated by a guy. I definitely can't do that. The Smoking Barrel here says organic audio is a choice, and I don't know what that is.
I think
so I'll have to Google it.
Audio voice. Maybe yes. I don't know exactly what that referencing, but I could only presume it means real people, but I don't know for sure. But yeah.
Oh, is choice, not a choice. Is choice. I can't read sometimes.
It's okay.
It's not good.
We stare at words all day.
It's like your eyes start crossing.
For me, it's like at the end of the day, I start stumbling on words, and I'm like, I can't speak. I'm a writer, not a speaker.
I was worried about that before this. I was like, I can write things and they sound nice and they sound pretty, but then people ask me questions and I'm like, no thoughts.
It's okay.
Only echoes.
I try not to make any questions super hard whenever I ask them. I can't guarantee the questions that come out of the ether from everybody else, but one I do, talking about questions, there are a couple I always like to make sure I do ask, and they're just very general. Do you have a website, or where can people find and follow you outside of Book Talk, as in socials, website, newsletter? What do you have outside of this place?
I'm on Instagram. Same handle I have here. Um, I do more like garbage posting in my stories over there. But I do still try to keep everything up to date on that side too. I have a Threads and an X, but I can't figure out how to make those work, so I'm barely ever on there. Um, but I do have my website. It's linked in the other places too, and it's got like the prologue for both my books. If anybody wanted to check those out there, it also talks about my editing services and rates and stuff on there too. But that's pretty much it. I
Hey,
don't
no,
go on Facebook, so
it's actually okay. I'm telling myself this because it's hard for me to swallow this pill, but it's actually okay not to be on all the platforms. Focus on a couple and then master them as best you can, and you don't need to be on everything to be successful. I say this because I always feel like I have to be on everything.
it can be like it like it can be such a source of anxiety to think like, oh, I got to make sure I get my TikTok post up today, and I got to make sure I've got my Instagram post up today, and then how is it performing? What do I need to change? And then it takes you away from the creative processes because your brain's like whirling about all this social media crap. And I was like you said, I was like, I cannot spread myself across all these things.
And I do see. I'm glad you're finding this informative, and I'm glad you appreciate this live. That's why we do these things, is to help each other out, be it the reader side, writer side, slash author side. And Nicole said, I've been on Insta for a bazillion years, and it's still all flat. It's okay. Like for me, it's X. I've never figured it out. I tried really hard for a year. Um, Not that it wasn't on prior, and not that I still don't have a floating account, but I gave up. It
I
just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to me.
When it was Twitter, I went on there and I was like, I gotta be on here. TikTok didn't, I don't think, even exist at that point. And it seemed like it was going okay. And then I just like, I can't deal with this anymore. Changed Instagram, which I can't figure out. Came over here, which I also can't figure out. And
Throw
late
things.
last year, I was like, let me get on X. Let me try to make this work again. It's even worse than it was before. I'm like, do we not hashtag anymore? Like, what do we even do? Me with my glasses, my Jerry, because I'm too old for this. I don't know.
For me,
Instagram,
I
some people
think
make it
it's
seem
like,
so easy. I can't.
oh yeah, well, I got to the point where it's like they're definitely going to be the readers on certain platforms, and that's what they love. I get it. I respect that. But for me, just understand, I will repost content. I will do this weird loop-de-loop cycle that goes around, and not to say that I don't make new stuff going a different way, shape, or form, but I repurpose
Oh, I
things.
recycle.
It saves me mental energy and time.
Repost, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Ooh, repost. I
Videos
hate
eventually end
that.
up,
Good to know. Good to know.
but all my
Wonder what's
TikToks
up.
eventually end up as reels on Instagram.
Very true. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I know you said that you have the TikTok shop and you sell your books there. Where else can people find your books if they're shopping for something too new to read? What other platforms are you on?
Sadly, just Amazon. I am on Kindle Unlimited, so you gotta reduce yourself down to that. I had originally published wide, and it was on Kobo and it was on
Mhm.
Google Books and stuff, but there was not there was like barely anything happening on those other platforms, and I was like, I could be getting Kindle Unlimited reads while I'm not getting reads over here. So I pulled it off of those sites, and it's all on the Zon now. So
Right. And depending on your genre, those KU reads can like make or break, they can add up. For me, it just with the type of epic fantasy I write, they were a big bread and butter for a while, but then it started tapering down for lots, there's reasons, and I won't go into all the book talk commentary about publishing and all that stuff. But eventually I made the call, and I decided I did the opposite. I kind of pulled out of KU with the point of eventually going wide, but it also allowed me to now sell direct. So I'm hoping I again is that spreading the word thing, and I'm bad at marketing and like yelling out and being like, "Hey, this is here." But now am able to sell ebooks direct too, and so that's
Oh,
what I'm
cool.
hoping will, if I can funnel people that way and just educate people, you can buy ebooks and use them on any device if you buy direct. Plus helps me
Yeah.
out.
I would love like Kobo I know has a thing similar to Kindle Unlimited, but they don't make authors be exclusive to their subscription reading thing. And I mean, we know why Amazon does it, but I wish they were like Kobo in that regard because I don't I don't like being only on there. But every time I'm like, maybe I should pull out, and then like my 90-day cycle, whatever, is almost done. Maybe I should get out of here and like put it back wide. Then somebody starts reading it on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm like, I hope you're having fun. I'll stay.
And every author has to decide what works best for them. And I know we're all different people are going, backwards and forwards, and some people try things and some people go back. And you just have to find what works best for you and your books. And guess what? When you get to the point of writing multiple series, maybe your romantasy is the one that makes you the most money on KU. Well, your original trilogy, then you can put wide. You don't have to have all your books in one place. You can spread them around too. So it's again part of the game.
Yeah.
There's just no rule books when you sign up for the game called self-publishing. I wish there was. And I see a couple comments popping up saying it is a different kind of beast to slay, trying to keep up with the socials. That is so true. There is no instruction book that stays consistent. Yes, the ebb and flow of the changing world. That is also very true.
And
It's
it's
why.
changing so much right now.
Oh yeah.
Like
And,
it, but
and there have been like there have been multiple other apps that have popped up, and I know I can watch like the flood of people, try something, and outside of this platform, this was the last one that was like brand new that I tried because I'm not even on Threads. Just
it's
I
just it's just it is exactly like X.
yeah.
It's not
Oh, okay.
doing
Good.
it's not doing anything new. It offers nothing new. And I'm like, aside from them sometimes popping up on my Instagram feed, I'm like,
I understand.
this is not offering anything. So
I understand. I understand
it was just
completely.
a
Okay, before I have one other question I always like to ask, but before I get to that one, I had another one, and now blinking on what I was. Oh, so okay, I forgot to ask from the get go. So with your debut series, your trilogy, so can you tell us a little bit about your main character slash characters? I don't know why I skipped over that important part.
yeah. So I have, I think of it as three. I really only have two of them that are the POV characters, but the third one's important too. So we have Lior. She is a elf. If I was going to class her as like a D&D character, she'd probably be ranger fighter, maybe a couple of levels of rogue. She's just a stabby mercenary lady. And I have one friend that describes her as a barbed wire fence. And I was
Mm.
like, fair. Then we have my weaver, my magic guy, who at the beginning, I will admit, he is a pompous jackass. um, his name's Hashkin. I don't know if I mentioned Lior's name or not, but then we have Hashkin, like I said, the magic user. He's like fresh out of a wizarding academy for, I mean, that's not what it's called, but fresh out of training at the Weaver gatherings and
Mhm.
trying to make a name for himself because he thinks he should have a name for himself. And then along the way, they meet Emmond, who is like the lovable barbarian. And he ends up being like everybody's favorite. And he's my favorite too, I think. But that's my little trio, at least as far as the first book goes.
I love that.
It's like Lior and then her mind, her two idiots. But
I love that. And also, I don't know where my pen was, and now it's gonna bug me because I was gonna write a side note so I can remember to talk to you behind the scenes. But so this is I have been stewing on this idea for a little while. There's one of the other author friends I have on various platforms. I found out that he is a DM. He loves being a DM, and we were talking about how so many authors or have that overlap and everything. And I think it would be kind of fun to get a small group of authors to play one of their characters on a one shot and
That
live
would,
stream it.
oh, I would, if I'm invited, I will be there.
Okay, because I was just like, I think I almost have the full campaign, and again, I have no plans on when or how this is going to be, but it was just putting little feelers out there with different authors, and I think about enough for a party, at least the first party, but just curious.
I would totally do that. I would build Leor, and that would be so much fun. The last campaign I was in, I was a DM, and I've been missing it so much. We haven't I like that campaign ended and we didn't start another one, and it's been, I think it's a little over a year now. And I was like, I liked the DM, but I really prefer playing.
Yeah.
So that would be so much fun.
Okay, well, I'm going when we get off this, I'm going to find wherever I dropped my pen because it probably rolled under the couch, and make a note of that because I was like writing notes, and again, have no idea when this would happen, and I see my timer coming up saying, "Hey, you have reached your hour marker. Are you still here?" So just 1 second. Okay, back on, and so I set the timer for an hour, and but okay, I'll remember that. Thank you, thank you. And okay, so the last question, because I know we're hitting the end of the hour, and this is around that time where surprisingly my dog has not come and walked through here, but usually lets me know that it is time for him to go out. But my other question I always ask, and this is for anybody else who's listening as well, is there any questions you had that you didn't get to ask, or any topics you wanted to cover that were not covered so far? And if so, this is the time, and this goes for you as well. If there's any. There may not be.
You've asked me questions and my brain goes blank again.
It's okay. It's okay. It's also later. I don't know if you are East Coast or not, but I'm East Coast, so it's getting later. I can feel the yawns getting on, like, it's been a big day. But yes, going back to, again, fun things to do, especially for people who sign and ship out their own books. I love coming up with concepts, and one of the ones that I have, I wonder if I have them. Do I have any painted ones? No, I have my unpainted ones. But as I said, I was doing these miniature TTR, actually I have like an unpainted one that's prepped of one of my characters that I have 3D printed, and then I'll paint her. And
Cool.
But my husband, who's far better, because when I say D&D, I am not an expert at all. But he's the one who helped design character sheets for my characters to go with them, and subclasses to go with them. So if you have like a set of them, you could have like little character sheets that you print out too. Again, the little things you can print at home for a couple bucks to tuck in and just make it kind of fun and personal.
I had thought about building their character sheets anyway. So now this is like further incentive for me to do it as a freebie to add into stuff. So not even just like, because I was like, I'll do it when I have a spare moment. And when do you ever have a spare moment? So now it actually has a purpose other than just me playing games with my.
Yeah, and I see that question pop up saying, how has TTRPG inspired your ability to write stories?
For me, I think it's pretty fundamental. I've been playing D&D, and I've played other ones too, but like D&D I've played since I was like 15. And it's such a part of like the way that I think about stories and the way that I think about like it's like I don't have like a group of characters in my head. I have a party. These are like my party of adventurers. So it's like it is my foundation because it's like I knew about fantasy before I played. I had read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and stuff like that, but it wasn't like until I started playing D&D, it was just like a thing, like fantasy every now and then, this is fun. And then D&D sucked me in. and then next thing you know, it was like the gateway drug. So then I'm on World of Warcraft all the time, and then I'm playing other games that are fantasy, and then I'm still playing D&D. And then we had a it's based off of anime, like Big Eyes, Small Mouths, Besem. We had some of those games going, and then there
Oh,
was Pathfinder games. At one point, we had a Pokemon TTRPG that we were playing, and so they're such a part of storytelling for me. I don't know. It's like without that, I would not have gotten here. I don't think.
that's so neat. I'm a little bit the opposite. I didn't get into, or again, getting very slow. Baby steps for me. Again, not an expert, but was introduced with TTRPG, specifically Dungeons and Dragons, over COVID. It was a way to reconnect and keep connect with friends who are all across the states, and we didn't have to be face to face because we were playing online.
Mm-hmm.
And but that concept of building characters, since I already was writing, was really neat. And so I got, invested all this time and energy coming up with my character, the backstory, and all this.
The backstory. Yeah.
I fell in love with my character so much, I was like, well, now I have to write a book series where I utilize her as the core. And it's stemming outward now. And so over the past few years, I've been slowly in the background behind all the other projects that have stacked up, coming up and creating the various locations for this future world and coming up with some of the other races. And because I am also on Facebook, my Facebook group, my readers group, so to speak, I had them come up with, create a monster for this future book series. And as a gift for coming up with this monster, I wrote them a short story featuring that monster. So it's fun. It is fun, and I do think they kind of go hand in hand, and they just work out well. And there are a lot of authors out here, I found out, that, again, they inspire each other, I think. So, long-winded answer to that question.
No, they absolutely do, I think, inspire each other. And even, like, get even more, like, delulu about it. So, Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year, and it is based very heavily or closely, or however you want to put it, on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And I go on this game, and I had played Baldur's Gate 2 and Baldur's Gate 1 way back in the day. And I was like, I'm going to play this game, start playing it, build my character, and all of a sudden, this character I'm playing in this video game has a backstory. And all of a sudden, they have a story after the game is done. And if you play video games at all and you haven't checked that out, the story in that game is amazing. And
I
it has
not.
like 5 million different endings. Like it can go so many different directions. And being a writer and having played D&D, both places you learn to appreciate a good story. And then I'm playing this game and I'm like, whoever wrote this was good.
I
Really
think it was a
good.
team because fun fact, my husband was really interested. I don't know if he ever got a chance to play that particular game, Baldur's Gate, but I went to 20 Books to 50K conference this past fall in Vegas. Now it's become recoined as Author Nation, but started hanging out with the TTRPG group a little bit. And they're hysterical. They're great people. And one of them was one of the people who worked on Baldur's Gate. And I was like, of course you're TTRPG. I mean, not ETRPGs, lit RPG, sorry. They're lit RPG group of authors. And I was like, that makes so much sense.
And probably a really, like, if he or she, or they worked on that, amazing storyteller. I was so impressed by the story of that game. And it inspired so many, like I was saying, all of a sudden my little collection of pixels had a backstory.
No,
And I'm like, how did I get here?
that's fantastic. And again, yes, I love that. You never know what's going to be your inspiration, be it a book, movies, your personal experience, someone else's personal experience, the game you played the night before. You never know. You never know. And okay, well, I will have to say goodbye for the evening since it is getting a little later, but if you ever want to do another one of these, I do them weekly. They're pretty, like I said, just chatty, conversational, and if you ever want to, just let me know. I do schedule them in advance. I'm a planner in that sense.
We appreciate the plans.
And for everybody who's been listening, thank you so much for joining and hanging out with us this evening. It was a blast for me, at least.
A great time.
And until next time, everyone, thank you for coming out, and I will keep in touch.
Good night. Bye. Thank you.